So I want to talk about one person in particular. You combine patience with impatience, greed and not greed, and it's very confusing. But those adjectives right there represent one person, and that's Jerry Jones. He's a very patient guy when it comes to signing players' contracts. CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, Lawrence, Dak Prescott as well, Dez Bryant, even if you go farther down the line. So he's very patient when it comes to contracts. He's impatient when it comes to winning championships. This year, it's all about being all in, right? All in. But does all in mean all in? He's an extremely confusing person because all in does not mean they're going to spend a bunch of money. Hell, they spent the least amount of money during free agency this past offseason, spent the fewest amount of money. But I think it's about by $30 million. I think the next lowest is the New Orleans Saints at 41. They have about $14 million that they spent. But he also wants to win a Super Bowl here. I mean, the years are counting for him. His life expectancy is waning as the days go on just because of the fact that he's been the owner of the Dallas Cowboys since 1989. But it turns out it's not only that. He's also undermining his own head coach, Mike McCarthy, who, according to Tyler Dunn with Go Long, a source told him that he's, quote, he's doing the best that he can. Some of the people that he's talked to have said that he's being fed up with it a little bit. And it gets worse and worse as you keep going along with this. A lot of a lot of sources think that the Cowboys, and especially Jerry Jones, should have given Mike McCarthy at least a 1-year extension. You don't need to give him 5+ years. I wouldn't. But give him at least one more to secure his job. They think that's kind of a bad move on Jerry Jones's part. So you got to at least secure his job for 1 year. It got so bad that the players themselves aren't even worried about the coaching staff, and they're more so worried about Jerry Jones interfering. The quotes keep going on. The sources keep talking by saying this, quote, multiple people high up in the organization indicate that current players are more concerned about Jerry Jones than their own head coach. They know ownership can undermine the head coach at any moment. That's kind of true. Mike McCarthy, coaching-wise, not that bad. Yes, he's had a couple blunders when it comes to time management. Look at the Jimmy Garoppolo playoff game back in 21, I believe. He called up a QB draw with about 20. It might have been, I think it was like 14, 15 seconds left in the game. The game was over. Jimmy G beat him in the playoffs. There's been a couple moments like that, but overall, 12-5 the past 3 seasons. I think, honestly, Jerry Jones is being less lenient with Mike McCarthy than he did with Jason Garrett, who had a bunch of 500-win seasons. And what's kind of funny is I heard a lot of people talking about this when, this report came out by Tyler Dunn saying that Mike McCarthy was fed up. And the question that was posed was, could Mike McCarthy get fired mid-season? Well, in Jerry Jones' tenure as the owner and as the de facto GM, even though I think he's just straight up the GM, he's only done it once in his entire tenure since 1989. And that was back in 2010. Wade Phillips went 1-7. Then he fires and brings in Jason Garrett, who goes 5-3. Only once since 1989 when he became the owner. So I don't think that's going to happen. And truthfully, I think there's really a near 0% chance that it does happen. The schedule to start out with is decently hard. Your first 4 games, you could easily win 2 of them. It's at Cleveland versus New Orleans versus Baltimore and at New York. You could definitely win 2 of those games hands down. Then you're at Steelers. I think that's a win. Versus Detroit, then at San Francisco. Those could be 2 losses right there. At Atlanta versus Philly, you did decently well against Philly over the past couple years. Versus Houston, CJ Stroud, I think he's going to be tremendous again. I think he's going to continue his great streak. At Washington, what's Jaden Daniels going to look like? Then versus New York. I mean, it's decently hard, but I think it's the Cowboys. They have a lot of talent already. But the fact that Mike McCarthy and players are afraid, not of the fact that Mike McCarthy may screw them over, it's that Jerry Jones could come in and manipulate situations. And I think, honestly, it doesn't give a lot of wiggle room for the coaching staff to take accountability because it's all Jerry Jones. So I think it's very, very difficult for Mike McCarthy to really impose his will and impose maybe his coaching style when, it's kind of a losing situation because Jerry Jones could do whatever he wants to do. He is the owner, but still he's a meddling owner. And I think that's what makes it the worst out of it all. So how can a team buy into a system that isn't the head coaches? Yes, you did sign a head coach. Hell, you signed a new defense coordinator in Mike Zimmer after you didn't like Dan Quinn's job. You let Dan Quinn go and become a head coach. You didn't want to bring him back again for another ride. So how can you believe in a system and a head coach's system that he doesn't even have full control over? Normally. it's really the head coach, and it could be if your head coach is there for long enough, he becomes the de facto GM, like Belichick, like Pete Carroll, and none one of these guys has control over the say in who comes into this, who comes onto the team, who they draft and whatnot. But the system isn't even Mike McCarthy's fully. It's kind of Jerry Jones in a large part of it. And what I also find funny is that this contract situation, let's go about the non-patience factor for a second. I said Dak Prescott isn't worth $60 million, and I don't think he is. He's not an elite quarterback. I think he's more of a fraud than he is, a truth of a great elite quarterback. I don't think he is. However, though, in terms of his tenure with the Cowboys, he's the third leading passer in franchise history. He had his best season of his entire career. He had a career high in passer rating, completion percentage. He led the NFL with 36 touchdowns. I don't think he's worth $60 million. However, Dak Prescott hasn't been a total bum on the Cowboys and creating arguments and then dropping out of OTAs and disappearing and going on darkness retreats as one quarterback has in the past. Albeit, he has accepted the franchise tag twice. He's restructured his contract 4 times over the past 4 years. He's trying to make it work. And honestly, Jerry Jones decided, you know what? He allowed him to do this. He forced this upon Dak Prescott, and Dak Prescott bit back with a $40 million contract, which Jerry Jones even admitted, yeah, he kind of got when it comes to that situation. And in the same exact type of a situation where Jerry Jones won't sign his big-time players to big-time contracts early enough, Dak Prescott has the upper hand with a no-trade clause, no franchise tag clause. He's asking for $60 million or he walks. Jerry Jones is in another precarious situation. Not only that, the number one wide receiver that proved to be a true wide receiver one on the Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb. They have to sign him to a contract very, very soon. Since joining the NFL in 2020, Lamb has the 5th most yards, a little over 5,100, of any wide receiver. He led the league in receptions last season. And also, not only that, they decided after all that work, he's going to try to hold out. He's going to stay away from the team. He got fined $101,000 for missing the team's mandatory minicamp. It's kind of on him, though. And I think, honestly, we heard a report Brandon Cooks had a great OTA session. Now, I'm not saying he's going to replace CeeDee Lamb, but normally, you don't want a guy behind you taking. It's the same thing running backs. You don't want the guy behind you showing that he could maybe, at a very, very cheaper price, create similar or the same production as you. I don't think Brandon Cooks will. I just want to preface that first. However, though, it is a little bit unfair that you have these top-tier players and you refuse to pay them. And it got so bad. When it came to CeeDee Lamb's contract, and that's when and Justin Jefferson signed a massive 4-year, $140 million deal, and also A.J. Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown got their pretty big contracts, Jerry Jones responded on the Dallas Morning News by saying, I saw the same contracts you saw. Bottom line is, I haven't had time to think about them, especially with those receivers now. Nobody was moving too fast to get involved. Now I just don't care to or even will express any thoughts about the contract or the impact of that contract. Well, the impact is massive because contracts for wide receivers are going up. These numbers are incredible. Justin Jefferson, massive sum of money. A.J. Brown, $32.5 million, I believe. Amon-Ra St. Brown, making more than Tyreek Hill. Brandon Ayuk's upset about a contract. We'll talk about him very, very shortly. But if you're not willing to pay CeeDee Lamb 32, 33, hell, even $35 million if he's trying to be on the same level as Justin Jefferson, then what are you going to do? You're going to let him walk? I mean, he's on the franchise tag for 2025. But I don't think CeeDee Lamb's going to give up anytime soon. T. Higgins tried twice. He asked to be on a trade. He got franchise tagged, asked to be on a trade again, then signed his franchise tag. I don't think CeeDee Lamb's going to take that route. Because guess what? What does Jerry Jones always do? He's extremely patient. Except when it comes to the 11th hour, the 59th minute, and the 59th second. Then he overpays for every single one of his players. Zach Martin, Des Bryant, Marcus Lawrence. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Jerry Jones gives in eventually. And that's what the Cowboys, every single Cowboy, if you have a lot of talent and you're in a contract year, hold out. You'll get the money. You'll get at least very, very close to the amount of money that you were asking for, just because it is Jerry Jones. And he gives in eventually. It may take you a little while. You may have to be on a franchise tag deal for 1 year. However, you will end up getting the right amount of money, or at least very close to it. Because like I said, Jerry Jones is too patient, but also very impatient. He's stubborn, but not stubborn. It's very confusing. He meddles, but he's meddling. Jerry Jones is an owner. He's won a couple Super Bowls here and there years ago. He's trying to regain that level of winning. But with the way he's approaching these types of contract situations and personnel decisions, it just doesn't work. Contracts are going up. The time to sign players is now. That's why Justin Jefferson got his massive deal when he did, although I think it was a year too late. CeeDee Lamb, it's going to be a year too late. Dak Prescott, it's going to be a year too late. Amon-Ra St. Brown got signed early. We're seeing these receivers get signed very early. We're seeing these players get signed very early, as they should. I mean, hell, one really good season, the Eagles signed Jalen Hurts to a $51 million a year contract. Did he look that great this year? Was he hurt? Was he playing hurt? Who knows? All I know is that they lost, I think, 6 of their last 7 games and got the crap beat out of them by Baker Mayfield in the first playoff game. It was embarrassing to watch. Jerry Jones needs to acknowledge the fact that he's not going to, but the way that he goes about contract situations and the way he controls his team, there's a reason why the Cowboys haven't won in like 30 years. I don't think overpaying for players when you could sign them early. I also don't think that meddling with your coach's decisions is a great idea. I also don't think being conservative in a free agent period that had a decent amount of talent is not the right way to go about things. They got to move pieces. $14 million, I think they spent in free agency. The next lowest was the New Orleans Saints at $41 million. That's a massive discrepancy. And especially with another failure in the playoffs, whether you want to blame the defense, get more defensive pieces. Whether you want to blame Dak Prescott, well, you decided to get Trey Lance a couple years ago or a year ago. It's not horrible. You've seen him for about 10 minutes. I don't know if you think he's your future. He's cheaper. You had Russell Wilson as an option. You had, if you want to go that route, you had Justin Fields as an option. Stuck with Trey Lance. I don't hate the decision, but it's just we haven't seen him. So, meddling with your head coach and his decisions, I understand where Mike McCarthy's coming from. It's not like he's had a lack of success necessarily. Jerry Jones has been very lenient with previous head coaches. But now, in Mike McCarthy, I think this is his 5th year as the head coach. It's, okay, you're on the hot seat. Dak Prescott's everybody's on the hot seat. We're all in on this season. It's Super Bowl or bust, as it should be. But it's like this season, there's so much unnecessary pressure. Because Dak Prescott's playing for a contract. Mike is playing for a contract. CeeDee's playing for a contract. Mike McCarthy is playing for a long-term contract if he wants to stay as the head coach of the Cowboys. It's unnecessary. You put all this pressure on top of being America's team already. On top of having, I think, the biggest stadium in the NFL. You could hold like 100,000 fans. On top of the fact that you're expected to win every single year. It doesn't matter what's going on. Your fans always expect you to win because Cowboy fans are a nice special breed of fans. Like I said, they're like the Los Angeles Lakers or any top team in any other major sport that's had some success in the past. You're expected to repeat it. Patriots fans are just starting to feel that now. Without Tom Brady, you went to Cam Newton. It was a bit of an ugly ride. Then you go to Mac Jones and this promise, and then it fell apart. And now we might see Jacoby Brissett back as the starting quarterback instead of a promising young rookie in Drake May. Or it could be Drake May, but it could be a rocky start. It's very confused. A lack of winning, and Patriots fans are confused. High expectations always when we have to realize that this team isn't good. Dak Prescott might be a top 12 quarterback at the max, kind of like a Kirk Cousins. He is Kirk Cousins. He's also asking for $60 million after Trevor Lawrence, who's had an okay career so far. Horrible start, although a lot of people blame Urban Meyer. A decent second year with Doug Peterson. They made a playoffs, win a playoff game, could have beaten the Chiefs. And then a third year where he gets hurt, but isn't hurt enough to not sit out, so he plays and he looks bad. I'm giving him the Baker treatment. You decided to play. That's the type of performance you're putting on. I can't really give you the benefit of the doubt. Dak Prescott, we all know. Playoffs, it's ugly. If you have a minimum 5 games played in the playoffs, he has the lowest winning percentage. I think it's tied for the lowest winning percentage in NFL history. Minimum 5 playoff games played. It's bad. It's very, very bad. So, I understand. But what we've seen from the Cowboys is what we're going to keep seeing. 12-5. Dak's going to make the playoffs. They'll probably win the NFC East or be right there with the Eagles. And then lose in devastating fashion. Whether or not it's a close game and Dak throws a pick, or they get blown out and Dak throws a pick, all I know is that Dak Prescott will throw an interception. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.